Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at two completely contrasting geoeconomic stories that are really defining the end of 2025.
We took a look at the data you shared, and it paints such a clear picture.
It really does. It's a perfect case study in global mobility.
And it is a classic story of push and pull. I mean, it really shows where things are shifting.
Okay, so what's the push?
On one side, you have Germany, a mature industrial giant, but it's dealing with some serious headwinds, rising costs, industries leaving, and a really profound social anxiety. That's the big push factor.
And the pull is where all that mobile capital, and maybe more importantly, that skilled talent, is going.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're following it to Southeast Asia.
Specifically Thailand.
Yes, which is actively, positioning itself as the strategic alternative. It's optimizing for convenience, for stability, and for growth.
So our mission today is to really get into the tension between these two realities. We've got German economic forecasts, we have data on CO2 taxes, social anxiety.
And then we'll pivot. We'll look at the specific advantages of Thailand's economy, especially its new destination, Thailand visa.
Right. So we need to understand not just what's happening, but why these forces are pushing people and pulling them in such different directions.
Let's start with the pressure point, Germany.
And the most immediate financial shock, the thing impacting every single household and company, has to be the CO2 price increase. It's under a law called the Brennstoff Emission Handelsgesetz, the BEHG.
That's it. We have to unpack that policy because it's a direct, measurable tax on the entire economy.
So what is it, fundamentally?
It's the framework for pricing CO2 emissions on all fossil fuels. So we're talking natural gas, heating oil, diesel, gasoline, everything.
And the price trajectory is steep.
It's very deliberate. They're trying to force change through expense. In 2021, the cost was set at €25 per ton of CO2.
And now, looking at the 2025 figures,
it's going to hit €55 per ton.
Wow. That's a 120% increase in just 4 years. That is a massive hike for a mandated national cost.
And it doesn't stop there. The really crucial part is what happens in 2026.
This is the threshold that basically locks in future price hikes.
Exactly. After 2025, a national emissions trading system kicks in, and it sets a price floor of €55 and a ceiling of €65 per ton.
So every business operating there knows, with certainty, that this cost is built in and it's only going up.
And that certainty is showing up in daily costs. The source material has some great examples of the real-world impact.
Like what?
Well, take heating oil and diesel. The cost increase from the CO2 mechanism alone was 6.5 cents per liter in 2021. In 2025, it's 14.2 cents per liter.
And what about natural gas? That's the backbone for industry.
More than doubled. The CO2 cost contribution per kilowatt hour has more than doubled in that same period.
So these are not just abstract numbers. These are real input costs that make everything more expensive.
Yeah.
Manufacturing, delivery, everything you consume.
Right.
But there has to be a goal here. What is the explicit policy reason for this kind of policy-driven pain?
The intention is very clear, and it's strategic. All of the earnings from the CO2 pricing go into one place.
Which is?
The Climate and Transformation Fund, or KTF. This revenue stream it's the funding mechanism for Germany's entire green transition.
So they're using high costs as a fiscal tool to fund the shift to decarbonization.
Exactly. For buildings, transport, energy, it is an enormous and, yes, painful investment in the future.
But that painful investment, it has immediate consequences, and maybe some unintended ones. We have to talk about the stress this is putting on industry and society.
The reality is pretty stark. The IFO Institute, as of December 2025, describes the industrial sector as being in deep structural change.
That doesn't sound like a normal downturn.
It's not. It's a fundamental shift. And the data shows capital is, it's actively fleeing.
It's capital flight on a huge scale. The source material puts a number on it. Since 2020, something like $210 billion in investments.
That's right, $210 billion, either lost or moved abroad.
And it's directly attributed to high energy costs and bureaucracy. I mean, that's just a massive amount of capital leaving because the cost benefit of operating in Germany has just turned negative.
And this economic strain, you can see it mirrored, even amplified in the national psyche, especially with the younger generation.
This is where the data gets really illustrative. You're talking about the Shell Youth Study from 2024.
Yes, which documented the rise of what they call the generation fear.
The anxiety levels are really unsettling. I think the number was 81% of young people aged 12 to 25.
81%. And they have a profound fear of a major war in Europe. That's the highest level of fear ever recorded in the history of that study.
It's a dual anxiety, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just war.
No. 67% of that same group fear rising poverty and the decline of the German economic engine.
So they're facing what the study calls a polycrisis.
Climate, war, inflation, all at once. That creates just immense mental pressure. It has to impact long-term decisions.
Of course. I mean, if you're a young person and 81% of your peers think a major war is coming and 2/3 think your country's economic promise is failing, how does that not change your whole view of the future?
It does. You don't make long-term domestic investments. You don't start a business. You don't buy property.
You look for stability somewhere else.
You look for an exit ramp. And on top of that existential fear, you have this layer of political disillusionment. Only about half of the youth are actually satisfied with how democracy is being executed.
So you feel powerless.
Yeah.
You can't influence the high costs, the global dangers, the national direction.
So you become mobile.
And that collective anxiety, it's reflected in the hard numbers.
Mm.
Which brings us to the IMK economic forecast from December 2025.
And the headline there is stagnation. German GDP was flat, 0.0% in the third quarter of 2025.
Just flat.
Stagnation is the word of the year for them. The IMK is predicting minimal growth for the full year 2025, just 0.1%.
But they do see a recovery coming.
Right.
For 2026.
They do. A much stronger recovery, projected at 1.2%. But, and this is a big but, we have to look really closely at what's driving that projected upswing.
Okay, so what is the engine for that 2026 recovery?
The key takeaway from the sources is that it's fundamentally internally driven.
Not exports, then.
No, it's relying heavily on state investment. Things like the Sondervermögen Infrastructure Fund, military procurement, that kind of thing.
And consumption.
And increasing private consumption, yeah, driven by some solid wage development. Germany is essentially trying to use its own domestic balance sheet to pull itself forward.
That feels like a conscious shift away from their traditional growth model. I mean, if growth is all domestic from state funds and consumption, is that a long-term structural move away from the German export machine?
That is the core risk flagged in the reports.
Because relying on an internal model, I mean, is that even sustainable for them?
Exactly. Germany built its wealth on being a global export powerhouse. If you rely only on internal spending, you're insulating yourself. It might work for a little while, but it caps your long-term potential.
And does the IMK data back that up?
It confirms the struggle, yes. External factors remain weak. And the foreign trade contribution to growth is forecast to be, and this is a direct quote, clearly negative in both 2025 and 2026.
What are the specific global drags holding them back?
A few big things. The report specifically calls out U.S. tariffs, rising global competition from China, and just persistently weak Chinese demand.
And the currency isn't helping either.
Not at all. The euro has been appreciating against the U.S. dollar and the renminbi, which just makes German goods more expensive for their key markets.
So it's a perfect storm. Self-imposed high costs meeting these aggressive external headwinds.
Right. So even though they're projecting some strong domestic investment growth in 2026, 4.4% for equipment, 2.5% for construction, the big picture remains.
Germany is relying on massive internal spending just to stabilize itself against this overwhelming external friction and capital flight.
That is the definition of the push. They're mitigating the immediate pain, but the underlying problem being a high-cost, high-bureaucracy economy in a volatile world, that remains.
Okay, so we've documented the immense pressure in Germany, the high costs, the anxiety. Now let's follow that mobile capital, that talent pool, and look at the path of least resistance.
Let's turn to the strategic pull of Thailand.
This is where we see economies really optimizing for stability and convenience.
And the contrast really couldn't be sharper.
How so?
Well, while Germany is struggling to keep its GDP above zero, the World Bank is projecting solid positive growth for Thailand. 2.9% in 2025.
And that's an improvement on 2024.
An improvement over 2.6% in 2024. This is a story of predictable, positive momentum.
So what's driving that growth? I assume infrastructure is part of it, but it sounds like there's a big services component.
Absolutely. There's investment in infrastructure projects, for sure. But the real dynamic force here is the incredible performance of tourism.
Coupled with those soft power initiatives.
Exactly. They are maximizing their cultural advantages.
And the tourism numbers are just huge. The source material projects 41 million visitors for 2025.
Which officially surpasses the pre-pandemic record. That was just under 40 million back in 2019.
So they haven't just recovered, they've expanded.
And they're not just hoping people show up. They've created a specific tool, a regulatory mechanism to attract a very specific kind of person.
The Destination Thailand Visa, the DTV.
Right. This isn't passive tourism. This is strategic economic policy, engineered to capture the very talent that's looking for that exit ramp we talked about.
This is the critical piece for anyone out there looking for a plan B. Who exactly is this DTV designed to attract?
It is aimed squarely at the modern, location-independent professional. Remote workers, digital nomads, specialized foreign talent, freelancers.
But there's a unique angle to it.
There is, and it's a massive strategic differentiator. It includes people engaging in Thai soft power activities.
So things like intensive Muay Thai training.
Or culinary programs, or even long-term medical treatments. It turns a cultural interest into an actual residency path.
That is a fundamentally different strategy. Germany is tackling geoeconomic friction with state spending and tariffs.
While Thailand is attracting talent by offering low-friction stability and a cultural connection.
They're targeting the human capital, the very people that countries like Germany are losing because of high costs and bureaucracy.
Precisely. We should get into the specifics of the DTV because the mechanics are designed for maximum flexibility.
Okay, so what are the key benefits for a mobile professional who's looking for that stability?
First, the duration. It's 5 years, and it's multiple entry.
5 years from the start.
From the start. And the stay period is designed to let you really settle in. You get 180 days per entry, and you can extend that for another 180 days from inside the country.
So you can legally reside and work remotely for a full year without ever having to leave Thailand.
Correct. And the cost for this kind of long-term flexibility is remarkably low.
What are we talking about?
The visa fee itself is only 10,000 Thai baht.
Which is roughly, what, 270 euros?
About that, yeah. Now, they do have financial requirements to make sure they attract solvent people.
What are the specifics there?
You have to show a bank statement for the last 3 months with an ending balance of at least 500,000 Thai baht.
Which is about 13,500 euros?
Roughly, yes. And they also want to see proof of income for the last 6 months. A salary slip, employment contract, that kind of thing.
That 13,500 requirement feels like a perfectly calculated barrier to entry.
It is. It's easily accessible for a mobile professional or an entrepreneur, but it's high enough to filter out people who aren't financially prepared.
And it's not just for individuals.
No, and that's key. They make sure it's a total package. The DTV is also available for spouses and children under 20.
Do the financial requirements change?
They stay the same, based on the main DTV holder's income. This makes it a serious option for families looking to relocate for stability.
So how does this 5-year cultural integrated visa compare to, say, some of the European digital nomad visas that have popped up?
Well, most of the European ones are designed for a single year, maybe 2, and they often have very high monthly income requirements, sometimes 2,500 euros a month or more.
They feel very transactional.
They are. The DTV, by offering 5 years up front and linking it to cultural engagement like Muay Thai, shows that Thailand is trying to integrate this talent into their national story. They're offering an experience and stability package.
Which contrasts so sharply with the uncertainty plaguing Germany.
It really does.
So, to synthesize this deep dive, we've analyzed a mature industrial economy, Germany, wrestling with high costs, deep anxiety, and geoeconomic friction.
And we've seen, in sharp contrast, an emerging economy in Thailand offering consistent growth, stability, and very specific visa mechanisms engineered to attract mobile, skilled professionals by focusing on their lifestyle.
I think the aha moment from all this data is just realizing how directly the structural economic decisions and anxieties on one continent are fueling new pathways and opportunities on another.
It's a clear trend. Stability and regulatory ease are now being sought outside of the traditional economic centers.
When geoeconomic tensions rise like this, stability itself becomes a highly valued export.
And the immense push of high costs and generational fear in Germany is finding its perfect strategic counterpoint in the pull of low-friction growth and cultural opportunity in Thailand.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. The IMK, in its German forecast, explicitly noted that aggressive geoeconomic policies like U.S. tariffs are driving uncertainty and slowing traditional trade.
Right.
So if Thailand's counter-strategy focuses on stability, soft power like Muay Thai and culinary culture, and low regulatory barriers to attract talent, how might this culturally grounded, stability-first approach become the new blueprint for successful global economic policy?
Is stability, anchored by culture, the new currency of global attraction, contrasting sharply with the geoeconomic tensions that are slowing down the traditional global powers?